The following are properties, original work, creations, and ideas of Kelebogile Sehoa. The ElementRings brand includes, but is not limited to, the ElementRings Pty Ltd company, the ElementRings script, comic book or manga script, characters, movie script, ElementRings merchandise, and Negu brand. All rights claimed and reserved by Kelebogile Sehoa. Hello and welcome back to ElementRings. We are going to continue from where we left off, but before that, a quick recap. The family eventually made it back home after being on the road for roughly 7 hours. The boys were tired and dazed from their sleep. They had a tough time getting into bed. A time so tough that their mother questioned when they'd grow up to take care of themselves. If you don't know what I'm talking about, please check out the first 2 audios before jumping into this one. Now that that's out the way, let's continue with the story. It was now a lovely Tuesday morning. Zakes and Matlohonolo were already awake, preparing themselves for the long day ahead. It was up to Zakes to wake up the boys. He started with Botlhale and was aided by the sun slowly illuminating the horizon. "Wake up, Botlhale. You need to prepare for school," Zakes said. Botlhale was still sleep-stricken and he found it very hard to regain full consciousness. Who could blame him? He only slept for a few hours, 6.5 hours to be exact, and on top of that, he was still tired from the long drive from his grandparents' home. Zakes shakes Botlhale a few more times, but his efforts were fruitless. He then decides to pull the blankets away. Zakes stands back to observe what Botlhale would do. Instead of getting out of bed, Botlhale curled himself up and continued sleeping as if he still had the blankets covering him. Zakes realizes that Botlhale wasn't going to wake up anytime soon, so he decides to go get some water. He heads to the bathroom, gets a cloth, and dampens it until it was dripping wet. He heads back to Botlhale's room and sprinkles the water at him, and still, Botlhale remains asleep. Zakes then says to himself, "I hate to do this to you, son." Zakes then moves closer, pulls Botlhale's shirt up and places the wet cloth on Botlhale's hip and belly. Immediately, Botlhale jumps out of bed shivering. "Dad, next time shout into my ear. I choose that over the wet cloth any day of the week," Botlhale says while heading to the bathroom. Zakes follows and also exits while laughing. Still shivering, Botlhale murmurs something along the lines of, "What kind of dad does that to his own son?" Zakes keeps laughing as he touches the door to Tlalefang and Otlhalefile's bedroom. He knew he'd have the same trouble with the younger ones, especially Otlhalefile. When he opened the door, he bumped into Tlalefang, who had already woken up. "Good morning, Papa," Tlalefang said while wiping his eyes. "Now this is a surprise. You woke yourself up. I'm impressed," Zakes says while heading to Otlhalefile. Tlalefang then heads out, but before that, he says it was either this or the wet cloth. Zakes laughs some more. Now with Otlhalefile in his arms, they follow Tlalefang into the bathroom. Tlalefang walks in, sees his brother and teases. "Sure, abuti, e reng vaslap mo ngwaneng?" Tlalefang asked. Now for those who didn't understand that, "Sure, abuti, e reng vaslapi mo ngwaneng" means, "Hello brother, how was the wet cloth on you?" The two of them laughed while talking about how they both hated it when their father uses the wet cloth to wake them up. A while later, Zakes and Otlhalefile enter the bathroom, and the boys all brush their teeth together while Zakes runs the bathwater for them. Otlhalefile was brushing his teeth with his eyes closed. He was half awake. The boys finally finished brushing their teeth and entered the bathtub. Without wasting any time, they started bathing. Zakes exits the bathroom and heads to his bedroom. When he entered, Matlohonolo was ironing the boy's uniform. "Honey, can you please bathe Otlhalefile while I make us some breakfast and lunch boxes?" Zakes politely asked. Matlohonolo replied, "Okay, dear, let me finish up here." Zakes heads to the kitchen and starts making food. Botlhale and Tlalefang were done, and they exited the bathroom. "Where's your little brother?" Matlohonolo asked. "In there," Botlhale answered, pointing into the bathroom. When Matlohonolo entered, Otlalifile was sleeping in the bathtub. My poor little boy, says Matlohonolo as she starts bathing Otlalifile. Botlhale and Tlalefang were now in Botlhale's bedroom putting on lotion and getting dressed. Yo, bro, I bet you are excited about breaking the news to Tisetso, aren't you? Said Tlalefang. You know that's right, Botlhale says while grinning. He then remembers the events of last night. Oh yeah, I forgot about the 5 missed calls and 2 messages, he said thinking out loud. He checks his phone again and sees 2 more missed calls and 1 more message. He unlocks his phone and checks the notifications. One of the messages was from someone called Mushidi and it read, Mfanaka, ubile hai, ke zamile ho founela, phone ya hao ya nolla. For those who don't understand that, Mfanaka ubile hai ke zamile ho founela, phone ya hao ya nolla means, my boy, are you back home? I tried calling you and your phone just rang. 2 of the messages were from Tisetso. The first one read, Dude, answer your phone. I want to know what you wanted to tell me. And the other one read, Never mind, you'll tell me at school. In all that time Botlhale was on his phone, Tlalefang got dressed and was even in the living room eating his breakfast. Botlhale puts down his phone and realizes that his little brother was no longer in the room with him. Tlalefang, Botlhale calls out to his younger brother. Instead, Zakes walks in and says, Botlhale, finish up. Both your brothers are in the living room eating their breakfast. You are going to be late, and Uncle Phil will be here soon. Botlhale hurried up and got dressed. Moments later, he was also in the living room eating his breakfast. Matlohonolo came into the living room with a cup of coffee in her hand. She went to the television and changed it to the weather channel. Mom, we were watching those cartoons, Otlalifile said. Matlohonolo replied, Relax, this will only take a minute. Tlalefang stood up and said, And that's my cue to bounce. He took his bowl to the kitchen, then went to gather his stuff. Otlalifile and Botlhale stayed with their mother. Matlohonolo saw what the weather in Pelindaba would be, and so too did Otlalifile. Now change back, mommy, change back, Otlalifile said. Botlhale stood up while finishing what was left of his food. You are such a baby, Botlhale teased. Otlalifile scoffed at him and continued watching the cartoons. Botlhale laughed and walked to the kitchen to wash his bowl. As he was doing so, he heard a whistling sound coming from the outside. That's Mushidi, he thought. He frantically wiped the bowl so he could go to his friend. Zix came into the kitchen and said, Put my bowl down before you break it. Botlhale gently did as his father said and went rushing outside where he would meet his friend Mushidi. And that's it for the 3rd release. As you all heard, Botlhale had something he really wanted to tell his friend Tisetso. He also got excited when he heard a whistling sound coming from the outside. It was the girl named Mushidi who sent him a text earlier. And remember, don't be afraid to interact with one another or me in the comment section. If it will help all of us enjoy this story, I'm all for it. Thank you for tuning in. Bye for now.